Weddings are supposed to be fairy tales. A day drenched in lace and flowers, laughter echoing under chandeliers, love sealed with a kiss. But sitting in that pristine cathedral, dressed in pale silk and a forced smile, I knew fairy tales were for children. What unfolded before my eyes was nothing short of theater, complete with a villain in a tuxedo and an audience too blind to see the script. The villain was Liam, the man I once believed was my forever, the man I thought I would be walking down the aisle to. Instead, I was a guest, tucked neatly in the third row, watching him slip a gold band onto someone else's finger. Her name was Juliana. My cousin, my best friend, the woman who had sworn she'd never betray me. As Liam recited his vows, voice rich with fake sincerity, my mind reeled back to the night I caught them. Hands clasped, whispers exchanged like stolen treasures, their laughter blooming in the darkness as though I had ceased to exist. "You're my one and only," Liam said. His eyes locked on Juliana's, but my blood turned cold, because those words, they weren't new. He had whispered them to me once, in the quiet corners of our love, when I still believed every syllable. The congregation sighed in admiration. Cameras clicked. Tears were dabbed from cheeks. Everyone saw devotion. I saw deception, and then his final vow spilled into the air. "I will never lie to you. Not today, not ever." That was it. The moment something inside me snapped, sharp and dangerous. Because if Liam wanted to paint himself as the perfect husband, then I would become the storm that ripped his canvas apart. I didn't know exactly how yet. But as the organ swelled and the couple kissed, sealing their performance with applause, a seed of revenge bloomed in my chest, and I swore to myself, before the night ended, the truth would no longer be silent. The reception hall glittered like a dream. Golden chandeliers poured light over polished tables, glasses of champagne catching the glow like liquid fire. Guests laughed, music pulsed, and the newlyweds basked in the center of it all. Perfect, untouchable. Or so they thought. I stayed in the shadows, silent, watching. My family believed my smile. No one suspected the storm beneath it. They thought my presence was proof I had forgiven, proof that I was strong. But strength doesn't always mean silence. Sometimes it means waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the time for toasts arrived, I knew the stage was mine. One by one, voices rang out, light-hearted jokes, blessings for the couple, sentimental anecdotes. Each toast painted Liam and Juliana as paragons of love, and each word scraped my heart raw. Finally, the microphone was offered to me. "Would you like to say a few words? After all, you two were so close, so close." The irony nearly made me laugh. I rose slowly, the room falling into an eager hush. All eyes turned toward me. My heels clicked against the polished floor as I made my way to the front, the weight of every betrayal pressing into my spine. I took the microphone. For a moment, silence stretched. Liam's smile faltered. Juliana shifted in her seat. I could have chosen kindness. I could have chosen peace. But they hadn't given me either. So I chose the truth. "First of all," I began, voice calm but carrying, "congratulations. Weddings are sacred, built on honesty, trust, and faithfulness." A ripple moved through the crowd. My words weren't sugary like the others. They carried a sharpness people weren't prepared for. Liam's jaw tightened. Juliana's fingers gripped her bouquet. I continued, each syllable deliberate. Each pause sharpened into a blade. But what happens when vows are spoken by someone who's already broken them? What happens when promises are recycled, spoken to one woman, then handed to another as though the original never existed? Gasps broke across the room. Murmurs rose like a tide. Liam shot to his feet. "That's enough," he barked, his face a mask of fury barely veiled behind civility. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. I looked him dead in the eye, my voice steady as steel. "You swore you'd never lie, Liam. But you did. To me, to her, to everyone here. And I think the truth deserves to be heard tonight, don't you?" The hall erupted into chaos. Cameras lifted, whispers hissed, and Juliana's smile shattered like glass. And in that moment, standing beneath the golden lights, microphone in hand, I realized this wasn't just a toast. This was the beginning of their undoing. The reception hall no longer glittered. It crackled. Murmurs spread like wildfire, flames leaping from table to table. Guests craned their necks, whispers colliding, the champagne suddenly sour in their throats. Liam's face burned crimson, his mask of charm ripped away. He lunged for the microphone, but I pulled it back, refusing to let him control the story any longer. Juliana clutched his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. "Don't," she hissed, panic flashing in her eyes. But it was too late. The illusion of perfection was gone. "You're lying." Liam snapped at me, his voice tight, shaking. "This is nothing but jealousy. You couldn't handle losing, so you came here to humiliate us." The room gasped. Someone dropped a fork. The band faltered, unsure whether to keep playing or stop entirely. I smiled, a slow, knowing smile that only made him angrier. "Funny," I said softly, though the microphone carried my words across the room. "Because I don't remember whispering my vows to Juliana in the middle of the night. I don't remember kissing her under the oak tree where you promised me forever." Juliana paled, her knuckles white around her bouquet. The audience shifted uneasily, their eyes bouncing between us like spectators at a dangerous play. Family members glanced at each other in disbelief. My aunt, Juliana's mother, covered her mouth, while my father's expression hardened like stone. Liam tried again, desperation bleeding into his voice. "You're twisting things. She's making this up." But his words lacked weight now. The cracks in his performance were too wide, too jagged. Juliana stood abruptly, her chair screeching against the marble floor. "Stop it," she cried, her voice breaking. "All of you, stop looking at us like that. This is our wedding." But even she knew it was useless. The murmurs had turned into judgment, suspicion, pity. And there I stood, silent for the first time that night, letting their lies collapse under their own weight. Because sometimes, silence cuts deeper than any scream. The tension in the room was suffocating. Every breath felt heavy, every stare a dagger. Liam was sweating now, his perfect tuxedo clinging to him as though even the fabric wanted to abandon him. And then, from the corner of the room, a voice rose. "Is this true?" It was my uncle, Juliana's father. His voice carried the weight of thunder. He stepped forward, towering, his eyes piercing Liam with a ferocity that made the groom flinch. Liam stuttered, his confidence shattering like porcelain. Juliana grabbed his arm again, whispering furiously, "Say something, Liam." "Fix this!" But before he could form another excuse, I reached into my clutch. My fingers brushed against the cold edge of my phone. I hadn't planned to use it. Not tonight, but their lies had demanded more than words. They needed proof. With a calmness I didn't feel, I tapped the screen and held it up to the microphone. The recording crackled, then filled the hall. Liam's voice, clear, undeniable. "She'll never know, Jules. You're all I want. Once she's out of the way, we can finally have everything." Gasps erupted, sharp as gunfire. Juliana froze, her lips parting, horror flooding her face. The recording continued, his chuckle low and intimate. "Besides, she's too naive to ever suspect us. She believes every word I say." Juliana's bouquet slipped from her hands, petals scattering across the polished floor. The room was chaos, shouts, disbelief. My aunt clutching her pearls, tears streaming down her cheeks. My father stepping forward, his fists clenched, his fury barely restrained. Liam lunged at me, his voice cracking. "You set me up! You recorded me!" I held his gaze, my voice steady, unwavering. "No, Liam. You set yourself up. All I did was give you the stage." The guests were no longer murmuring. They were judging, condemning. Some pulled out their phones, recording, broadcasting the scandal live. Juliana finally collapsed into a chair, her face buried in her hands. Her perfect wedding makeup smeared into ruin. And Liam? He looked at me with hatred, raw and venomous. The kind of hatred that says this isn't over, but it was. At least for tonight. Because the truth was finally louder than his lies. The reception hall looked less like a celebration and more like a battlefield. The DJ had stopped the music hours ago. The champagne sat untouched, its bubbles dying in silence. Petals littered the floor like casualties, trampled beneath the feet of restless guests. Liam and Juliana had vanished into one of the side rooms, their retreat a coward's surrender. But the whispers hadn't stopped. They chased them, filling every corner of the hall with scandal. I stayed, seated at my table, calm in the storm I'd unleashed. Relatives avoided my eyes, unsure whether to console me or fear me. Strangers glanced in my direction with awe, like I had pulled off some impossible magic trick. And maybe I had. Because in one night, I had turned a wedding into a reckoning. But the reckoning wasn't finished. I left before the cake was cut, before the night dissolved into pity and gossip. As I walked into the cold night air, I felt Juliana's voice chasing me. "Why couldn't you just let me have this?" she had shouted before disappearing. Her words echoed in my mind, sharp and poisonous. Let her have this? She had stolen everything from me. My fiancé, my trust, my dignity. And now she wanted peace? No. I wanted justice. At home, I poured a glass of wine and scrolled through my phone. Dozens of messages blinked across the screen, some from friends praising me for my courage, others accusing me of cruelty. Screenshots of Liam's recording were already spreading online. A scandal this juicy couldn't be contained, but I wasn't satisfied. Not yet. Exposing them at the wedding was only the first act. The real revenge, I realized, would be in tearing down the lives they thought they could build on lies. And I had the tools, proof, connections, a fury sharp enough to cut through anything. I sat in the dark, swirling my wine, my reflection fractured in the glass. They wanted me broken. Instead, I would make them wish they had never crossed me. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone vibrating nonstop. Notifications exploded across the screen. Social media posts, articles, gossip blogs, betrayal at the altar, groom's secret exposed during reception. Cousin's scandal rocks high society wedding. Photos of Juliana crying circulated online. Liam's face, caught mid-scream, became a meme before breakfast. I almost laughed. Almost. But my smile faded when I saw the text from Juliana. "You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy." Happy? No, this wasn't happiness. This was justice, sharpened into a blade. Their honeymoon plans leaked online that afternoon. An exclusive resort in the Maldives, a week of luxury, stolen kisses, and a fresh start. I couldn't allow that. So I made a call. The resort manager, a woman I'd once worked with, owed me a favor. I sent her the recordings, the articles, the scandal. Within hours, their reservation was canceled. The honeymoon suite was reassigned. Their dream escape evaporated before it even began. And that wasn't all. I dug deeper, sending proof of Liam's deceit to his employer, an uptight law firm built on integrity and trust. By evening, rumors swirled that he'd been put on indefinite leave pending investigation. Juliana's career wasn't safe either. She was a wedding planner, ironic really. With her name now tied to betrayal and humiliation, brides-to-be canceled appointments in droves. Her inbox flooded with angry messages, clients demanding refunds. They thought they could climb higher on my broken heart, but I was the one holding the ladder. And now, I was pulling it away, rung by rung. By midnight, I received another message from Liam. "You don't know what you've started. This isn't over." I stared at his words, the threat hidden between the lines. No, it wasn't over. But he was right about one thing. What I had started would end with nothing left of them. Revenge is a game of patience. I had spent weeks, maybe months, collecting my cards, waiting for the perfect moment to play them. And it worked, spectacularly. But Liam wasn't the type to crumble quietly. The first sign came on a gray Tuesday morning. I opened my laptop, ready to draft emails for work, only to find my inbox flooded with strange messages. Some were anonymous insults. Homewrecker, jealous witch, bitter ex. Others were more sinister, laced with threats. At first, I thought it was random internet cruelty. But then I noticed the timing. Each hateful comment appeared just after another article about Liam's suspension hit the news. He was behind it, trying to paint me as the villain. A week later, The whispers reached my job. My manager called me into her office, her face pinched with discomfort. "There's been some concern about your personal life. Your name is in the press, and clients are asking questions." Liam had gone after my career. I left the office with my chest tight, fury building in my veins. He wanted to tarnish me? Fine, two could play this game. That night, I printed every receipt, every screenshot, every message he'd ever sent me, the late-night confessions, the timeline proving he had cheated long before the wedding, the documents tying him to Juliana even when he swore he was mine. But this time, I didn't release them online. I hand-delivered them to his firm's board of directors, to Juliana's top remaining clients, to the family members who had pitied him at the wedding. If Liam wanted war, I'd show him what war looked like. By the end of the week, Juliana's business website had been taken down for restructuring. Liam's face was scrubbed from his law firm's site. They were slipping, fast. But I wasn't celebrating yet, because deep down, I knew the fight wasn't over. And I was right. The following Sunday, a letter slid under my door. No return address, no explanation. Just 6 words scrawled across the page in angry ink. "You'll regret this more than us." The letter wasn't the only warning. The next morning, I noticed the scratches. Thin, deliberate lines carved into the paint of my car. Not random vandalism. Someone had stood there, dragging a key across the metal, again and again, like they wanted me to feel the violation. I didn't need to guess who. Still, I kept moving forward. If fear was their weapon, silence was mine. But silence didn't last long. At brunch with an old friend, I overheard whispers from the next table. 2 women scrolling through their phones, giggling. "Isn't she the one who ruined that wedding? No wonder he left her. She looks bitter." Their laughter burned worse than the scratches on my car. For the first time since the reception, doubt flickered inside me. Had I gone too far? Had I turned myself into the villain of my own story? That night I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. My eyes looked sharper, harder than before. My lips curved into a smile that didn't quite feel like mine. Revenge changes you, and I wondered, was I still the victim? Or had I become something darker, something Liam and Juliana couldn't have predicted? The thought scared me, but it also thrilled me, because if I had changed, then maybe I was no longer bound by the rules they thought I would play by. Later that week, a family gathering brought the final confirmation. I walked in, head held high, only to be met with cold stares. My aunts whispered. My cousins avoided me. Juliana had gotten to them first. She'd spun the story, painting herself as the betrayed bride, me as the jealous ex who destroyed her wedding out of spite. And some believed her. I clenched my fists under the table as I listened to them defend her. Every word was a reminder. This wasn't just about Liam and Juliana anymore. This was about me against a narrative. And narratives, I realized, are powerful weapons. So if they wanted to make me the villain, then maybe it was time I leaned into the role. The anniversary of their perfect wedding approached, a date I marked on my calendar not for celebration, but for reckoning. By then, Liam and Juliana had tried everything. Smear campaigns, threats, and even attempts to manipulate mutual friends. But each move backfired, leaving their world smaller, lonelier, and more fragile. I decided it was time to confront them, not in whispers or messages, but face to face. The venue was their old reception hall, rented for a remembrance brunch they invited select friends to. The irony wasn't lost on me. They thought I'd avoid it, that I'd shrunk into the shadows. I entered with calm confidence, letting the murmurs follow me. Juliana spotted me first, her lips parting in shock. Liam's jaw tightened, his posture stiffening like a soldier ready for battle. "You shouldn't be here," Liam spat. But the words were weaker than his glare. "I am," I said softly, letting the power in my stillness fill the room. The table was set like a postcard of the past. Golden plates, crystal glasses, floral arrangements, yet the air was poisoned with tension. I sat, eyes locked on them. "I want to end this," I began, my voice smooth, deliberate. "But it ends my way," Juliana scoffed. And what exactly is your way? Public humiliation again? No, I said, leaning forward. Truth, real, undeniable truth. You've spun stories about me, twisted the narrative. Tonight we set it straight. Liam's hand twitched. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried to find control. But I was faster. I placed my phone on the table, screen glowing. The recording began. Not just the same one from the wedding, but dozens more. Secret confessions, messages revealing lies, betrayals, manipulations. Every word a dagger aimed at their carefully constructed facade. The brunch guests froze. Their eyes darted from Juliana to Liam, shock and judgment blending into quiet horror. Juliana's cheeks flushed red. Liam's hands shook as he tried to cover his face. You thought you could outsmart me, I said softly, deadly. But every lie left a trail. Every betrayal recorded. And every friend you fooled. They're watching now, hearing everything, seeing everything. The room fell silent, except for the quiet hum of my phone. You wanted to make me the villain, I continued. So I wore the role, and now the truth is the weapon, and it's sharper than either of you imagined. Juliana lunged at me, but the guests held her back. Liam tried to yell, but his voice trembled. They were powerless against the evidence, against the narrative they had tried to control for so long. I leaned back, letting the silence stretch, long, suffocating, final. By the time the brunch ended, everything had changed. Juliana's reputation lay in ruins. Her carefully curated social media posts had been shared online, screenshots circulating like wildfire. Clients canceled contracts. Brides-to-be called off bookings. Her empire of trust had evaporated overnight. Liam's career followed a similar trajectory. His firm placed him on indefinite suspension, the board citing breaches of trust and ethical violations. His colleagues whispered behind his back, once allies now turned skeptics. And me? I didn't celebrate, not yet, because revenge isn't joy, it's balance restored. I stood outside the hall, letting the winter sun warm my face. My phone buzzed constantly, messages from friends, family, even strangers praising my courage, marveling at how truth had toppled deceit. And somewhere deep inside, satisfaction pulsed. Sweet, sharp, and justified. I thought of that night at the wedding, when laughter had surrounded their lies, and silence had been my only shield. Now silence had been replaced by clarity. My voice had cut through their performance like a blade, exposing everything. A final text came from Liam. You think you've won, but shadows have a way of returning. I smiled. Shadows? Maybe, but for now, the light of truth burned brighter. And as I walked away from the hall, I knew this. Honesty had more power than deception. Courage had more impact than fear. And in the end, standing tall and speaking out had made the difference, because I had chosen to speak. And my words had been louder than their lies.